everybody, and welcome to Conversations with Codey, where we talk to experts around the world about digital safety. I'm very excited to welcome Carina Van Wyk, Head of Education and Training at Africa Check. Carina was a journalist and is now an advocate for delivering the truth on the internet. I was lucky enough to meet Carina on a panelist this year, and her passion for the truth and for children's safety really impressed me. So I'm excited to welcome her here with us today. She's joining us to discuss the true impact of misinformation on young minds. Thank you, Carina.
Thanks, Cheryl. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Carina, I'm aware that Africa Check is a really useful resource for adults to use to discern if information is true or not. But our children are being exposed to similar messages. What role can our parents play educating our children around misinformation?
So I would say the most important thing for parents to do is to learn to identify misinformation themselves. And at Africa Check, as the continent's first independent fact-checking organization, we realized that fact checkers can't verify the accuracy of all the information on the internet. So we need to transfer these skills, and we need to teach parents how to be fact checkers themselves, and then through the knowledge that they gain, to also transfer those skills and knowledge to their children. They need to know how to sort fact from fiction so that they can guide their children in doing the same. And the first thing parents can teach their children from an early age is not to believe everything they see on the internet. Remind them that anyone can put anything on the internet. There isn't really a lot of control. And in the same way that you should question you should question things that people tell you in real life, you should also question what they tell you online. So we should always think critically about the information we come across. And when children are unsure whether something is true or not, they should all know that they can go to a parent or they can go to an adult that they trust to ask them about the information that they're looking at.
We couldn't agree more with you, Carina. We try and teach our adventurers to click to check and to always discuss what they find online with their circle of trust or with an adult. So again, communication is the most important thing. I think our parents don't need to be embarrassed if they don't know if it's true or not. And in the same breath, we also need to be confident to use Africa Check. There's nothing wrong with having a tool as useful as Africa Check to check the information. Now, misinformation and peer pressure can have severe effects on one's psyche. What essential skills are needed to identify fact or falsified information?
So firstly, I'm going to go back to critical thinking and questioning everything that you see on social media. Then also ask yourself why someone might have shared something. Is it perhaps because they are scared, or because the information they're looking at confirms their own biases or their preconceived ideas? So put yourself sort of in the shoes of the person who shared the information. And then also and ask yourself why they did that. Then also ask yourself, who is the source of information? Are they qualified to be talking about the topics at hand? Do a Google search to see if this person is, if they say they're a health expert, for example, or a psychologist. Do a search for that person. Make sure that they are qualified, firstly qualified, and secondly, registered with the health authorities in the country that they practice in. Then another thing also, that's also important to remember is that false information or images or videos are often used to share false information. And most of the time, the images or the videos that we see are real, but they are shared in the wrong context. So they got an element of truth, but the accompanying message or the caption is incorrect. And we see examples of this all the time. If somebody sends you a WhatsApp with a video or an image saying that, there's violent protests in your area, don't go out, that kind of thing, we need to ask ourselves, but was this actually really taken this morning? Was it really taken in this area? And we need to then search for those images or videos online, and you can search for an image or video online in the same way that you search for information. So there is a tool called a reverse image search. So you could upload an image, for example, onto Google or onto Google Images, and to see whether it's an old image, whether it's appeared online before, and to assess, what or the real context in which this image or video was taken. So also be very wary of images and videos that might be used to share, to create fear and to share false information.
I think that is a great tool to teach our parents as well as our children, because the text that people write will give that image, even though it's old, a different context. And I mean, there's so many images out there. I think another thing we need to be aware of is AI. Not all images are real. So that's also an important thing. Very great tip to give. Thank you. Carina, how can we translate this information for our children to be more cautious when they're researching information for, let's say, a school project, or purely just looking for their own interests? We at Social Kids encourage our parents to download kid-friendly browsers as that extra block for information coming through. What would you suggest?
So I think the big challenge is the overabundance of information that we find online. It's not as simple as what we did when we were school going, and we could simply go to the library.
Yes,
I was thinking about encyclopedias.
I'm giving away my age.
Yes, completely giving away my age. But we used to go to the library and look at one or two or perhaps three encyclopedias. And we put together information for an assignment. These days, I think on the one hand, it's much easier because you can find a lot of information about topics. But the fact that there's such an overabundance of information actually is very challenging also, because we need to be able to know what information we can trust and what we can't trust. And I think that takes us back again to the source of the information, asking yourself whether the source can be trusted. Advise children not to just follow a random influencer who's not necessarily qualified in the topic that they are discussing online. So unless they have proven qualification and experience in a field, I would say steer away from those influencers or random social media accounts. Rather, let them consult news websites, let them consult online encyclopedias. Many people would go to Wikipedia as a starting point. There, I would say be very careful, because it's a great starting point, but make sure that you go to the sources at the bottom. There's always links to sources at the bottom of a Wikipedia article. And make sure that you go to the original source. So click on that link and see where the information comes from. It's all about where it comes from and can I trust it? Then you can also look at websites that ends on .org or .edu or edu, because those are usually websites of registered organizations, educational institutions. Those kind of organizations are usually, and I'm not saying always, but they usually provide credible information. And then ask yourself, is the information that I'm looking at, is it out of date? Has it been updated since it was last published? Make sure you're not using information from 2010 if there's more recent information available. Ask yourself whether the information is supported by evidence. Can you find the information that you're looking at from more than one source and from more than one expert? And then also another thing to look at is the writing professional? I always give this tip in the training sessions that we do. If you see loads of spelling errors and loads of grammatical errors, be very, very careful, because usually when things are written in a professional manner, when they are properly proofread, then that information is usually, not always, but usually more trustworthy. So yeah, we all make mistakes, and everyone can make a spelling error once, every now and again. But if you see something online and it looks like it's from a professional, like a news or a media organization's website or a social media platform, but there are 5 grammatical or spelling errors, then it's very unlikely that it was actually created by a trusted news source.
Carina, in your recent blog, Raising Informed Media Consumers Starts at School, you mentioned that all it takes is an internet connection and a click of a button to spread false news in seconds. Could you tell us what are the repercussions of sharing false news?
So firstly, you can cause a lot of unnecessary fear. We saw this a lot during COVID, where people were uncertain about what was going to happen. We didn't know what we were dealing with. And the moment people are uncertain and they are scared, they are more likely to share unverified information. And it's not always with bad intentions. Sometimes it is simply to warn other people. But you can actually, by now trying to do good and by trying to warn other people about something, you can cause unnecessary fear. They share the message that you shared, and everyone that they shared that message with also share it. And in a few seconds or a few minutes, this message can spread to hundreds or even thousands of internet users. So false information related to health can lead to sickness. It can even lead to death, especially when we look at vaccine-related false information. It can also increase prejudice against certain groups. So what we often see in South Africa is that false information with a xenophobic undertone is often shared, and we also saw that during elections earlier this year. So it entrenches myths around prejudice. It marginalizes individuals and communities. And then besides these dangers, if you spread false information, you make a habit of spreading false information, people are also not going to necessarily trust you in future. So it's also necessary for us to be credible social media users, and to also realize that people trust the information that we put out there. So your credibility is also very important.
What guidelines, Carina, can you give our children around sharing information online? What can they do to ensure that it is always true? And if they are resharing any information, what must they do to protect themselves should it be false?
Okay, so firstly, I would say never share information if you're not 100% sure it's accurate. That's really what we want to encourage people to do, because you don't have to deal with the repercussions later. So when you look at information, always ask yourself, is this triggering my emotion? Is it making me feel scared? Is it making me feel satisfied? Because sometimes we want to share information because we agree with it. Sometimes we want to share information because it makes us angry. So do always ask those questions around, the emotion that it is provoking in you. And if you feel emotional when looking at information, pause, verify the information before you. Yeah, so and then also make sure that you cross reference. So if you do see information online, if somebody shares a WhatsApp message with you and you're not sure whether it's true, go to a credible news source to see if it is something that is being reported on by the media, whether you can confirm it somewhere. Because with any big news event, media organizations would typically already be covering it. So always do that. I would say, firstly, I want to go back and reiterate that never ever share information that you're not 100% sure about. And if in the event you maybe send a message to one close friend, because you want to find out from them if they know whether it's true or not, just be very careful and say, okay, I found this or I saw this on the internet. Do you know whether it's true? Or it's unverified. I don't know if it's true, but I'm trying to find out. So never ever post anything that you're uncertain about, and especially not if there's any uncertainty around it, make sure that you are clear and honest about where you got the information from, and you yeah and be honest about the fact that you haven't verified it. But I would actually not even want to advise going that route. I would rather advise on making 100% sure that the information you share online is 100% accurate, because the internet is forever, and you might think, oh, I can delete this message, but somebody might have taken a screenshot already, so you can't take anything back that's been shared online. So then I would say, just ask yourself, but is this even worth it? Is this going to be worth it? And rather just don't share it if you're not 100% sure.
Carina, I think that is fantastic advice. We always try and teach our adventurers to think before you click. And I think a lot of us, if we actually just take a deep breath, do a little bit of extra research, it takes a couple of seconds, make sure it's true before adding to the problem by spreading the fear, putting your name and your credibility at risk. So that is fantastic advice. Carina, a little bonus question I have for you, and it's just out of pure interest. How would we be able to identify AI content versus something that was actually written by a human? I find a lot of people are going that route to write copy, or I've even heard of people writing books. So how do we tell the difference now between that content?
Well, I think firstly, make sure that once again, the source is the most important thing. So, are they actually referencing sources? If you go back to those sources, can you find the information? So it's still a bit tricky with text. If you work with copy a lot, you will fairly easily, you can fairly easily see, or or you have your suspicion around whether it was created by AI or not. And there are some tools that you can use to sort of get an indication of whether it is likely to have been created by an AI tool. Those tools are not that advanced yet. And the thing about those tools is they are not 100% accurate. So they're not going to tell you, okay, this was definitely created by AI. It's probably going to tell you that, this is the likelihood that it was created by AI or not. So I would not really rely on one or two tools, to determine with certainty whether something was AI created. I think that the most important question is asking yourself whether you can actually verify the information that you're looking at, whether it was AI created or not, and always fact check any information that you see. So I would say, in the same way that you would look at any copy and ask the relevant questions of where it comes from, is it a source that I can trust? You can also try to verify the information that you're looking at and whether it was created by AI or not. Go and try to cross-reference, see if you can find the real or the accurate information. In terms of AI-generated images and videos, we see a lot of, or up to now, we've seen a lot of what we refer to as cheap fakes. So that is where technology that's not as sophisticated yet are used to create fake videos. We saw some videos in the lead up to the South African elections earlier this year, where an old video of Donald Trump was taken, and it was manipulated using AI technology, so that it looked as if he was encouraging South Africans to vote for the MK party, for example. And that's just one example that we saw. But when you looked at it critically, it was very easy to see that, this wasn't really, Trump speaking. This was a manipulated video. The technology is getting better though, but you will still use the same tools that you will use with other pictures or images or pictures or videos. to identify whether it's real or not. So one of the things when looking at pictures, for example, is zoom in. That's like the first tip that I give to everyone. So zoom in on hands, for example, fingers, detailed jewelry, earrings. So we often still see mismatched earrings.
Oh, wow.
For example, when an image is created by AI, the strands of hair. Look closely at someone's hair if there's something that looks unnatural or blurry. Also, if someone has a very smooth appearance, that's also something to be on the lookout for. And then do an internet search for similar images. If it is an image of a well-known person, for example, go and look at other images and videos of that person to see, is this what they really look like? Is this the kind of clothes that they usually wear? Do they have certain habits in the way they talk, or how? So go and compare this image or video with what they would usually look like. But it's really about looking at those small details and making sure that what you're looking at is actually real.
Carina, I can't thank you enough, and all the amazing work that you and Africa Check do. I think teaching our children that there's good and bad online is essential. And a lot of the times, us adults get caught out. I mean, what you've just told me now was a crazy amount of information that we actually just need to go old school and double check the sources, think about the emotions, and again, think before you click. So thank you so much, Carina, for taking time out of your busy day, helping us spread the news that misinformation and peer pressure can have an effect. So we need to teach our children from a young age to look at information critically and to check the sources, make sure it's timely, and make sure it's relevant. So thank you again. It really is a great honor to have you with us, and all the best. I look forward to working with you in the near future.
Thanks so much, Cheryl. It was only a pleasure.
Thanks, Carina.